Thanks for downloading a 3CR podcast. 3CR is an independent community radio station based in Melbourne, Australia. We need your financial support to keep going. Go to www.3cr.org.au for more information and to donate online. Now stay tuned for your 3CR podcast.
Sabah al-Khair, good morning dear listeners. You're listening to Radio 3CR on 855 AM and Palestine Remembered with Yusuf al-Rimawi, Nasser Mashni and Robert Martin. Thanks for tuning in to another edition of Australia's only radio program that is totally dedicated to the Palestinian cause in English. Stay with us and enjoy the episode. Good morning, Nasser.
Morning, Yusuf.
Robert is not with us today, but we have an even better,
much better looking,
gorgeous
young lady.
Hello.
Hi.
What's your name?
Janine.
This is Janine, the gorgeous Janine.
Hello, Janine. Janine is your daughter, Nasser, and we are so happy that Janine has joined us today. And
she's doing her apprenticeship, Yusuf, so that she can take over from us one day. Although I think she's maybe too pretty and too smart for radio.
For radio, yeah.
Palestine Remembered TV sessions.
Oh, wow. I'm looking forward to it. So, Nasser, what do we have today?
So today, we promised our listeners we'd talk about the democracy that is Israel. We'll talk about that. We're also going to talk about...
Sounds like a joke to me.
Yeah, it is a joke, that's right, a cruel joke. Talk about the ruminations within the Australian Labor Party, and Bob Carr gave a talk earlier on this week, and the kerfuffle that the right-wing media has taken up against that speech. And also want to introduce our listeners to Mr. Amy Popper and his story.
Okay, looking forward to it. So we will get started with Bob Carr.
Yeah, let's start there, Yusuf. So during the week, Bob Carr was a guest of Anthony Albanese and Tony Burke. Now, Bob Carr was a former, as we know, Premier of New South Wales, but also Foreign Minister to Julia Gillard's Labor government. He, in fact, stood up to Julia Gillard when she wanted to vote against a General Assembly resolution recognising the state of Palestine. And Bob Carr convinced her to abstain. He didn't want her. She actually didn't have the courage to go to caucus and see what her constituency would vote. And in the end, forced her to abstain. And that was seen by Israel and its very few allies as a real slap in the face. So I was
actually in a meeting with Bob Carr on the 30th of November, the day the resolution passed and the day Palestine was recognized as a non-member state, and there was a community meeting between him and the members of the Palestinian community. I was invited, and he told us in detail how difficult it was, how much pain he had to go through trying to convince Julia Gillard to just abstain.
Just to abstain. Ridiculous, hey? So moving on from there, we've had a resolution now in the Tasmanian Labor Party. We've had the state Labor Party in South Australia urging the next Labor government to do the right thing and recognise the state of Palestine. And there's the upcoming New South Wales Labor conference, and the numbers are in. That's going to be pushed through the state New South Wales Labor Fringe program, and that'll go then to the national program next year and formally become Labor policy. Much to the disdain of the right wingers of Shorten, but and his like. But the reality is the numbers and it's the constituency of the Labor Party has moved beyond the right wing. Now,
this effort actually is a collective effort of members like Maria Van Vakeno, other Friends of Palestine within the Labour, who have done tremendous effort towards that end, to work within Labours, within that kind of the obstacles that we all know, of anything related to Palestine, given that for years the policy of Labour on Palestine was too broad, just like we support the two-state solution and period.
Well,
so
the
with no
reality
recognition of occupation.
Correct. So the challenge is the concept is we recognise the two-state solution and we want a two-state solution, but they only recognise one state in the two states.
Yeah.
And
they don't even recognize or acknowledge occupation. The word occupation is like a taboo word in that discourse.
Well, because as soon as we say occupation, then there's a legal consequence to it. We'd rather use the words disputed. We're talking about people within the Labor Party. One of the real movers and shakers is the Vice President of the Queensland branch of the Labor Party, Ms. Wendy Turner, and she in fact
she's great.
Seconded the motion and had a great op-ed which we'll put a hyperlink to on our podcasts. But a great article she had published in Queensland, talking about the reality of until we can tell a belligerent, occupying power like Israel that they can't continue to do what they are doing without consequence. You cannot move 600,000 plus settlers into somebody else's land. You cannot connect those people by Israeli-only roads and connect them to utility, sewer, power, phone, telephony services, and all the while denying the people you occupy the same services, over and above which denying the refugees their inalienable right to return. We have to give them... there has to be a consequence of that continuing belligerent occupation.
One thing, Nasser, in my lecture last week about Jerusalem, I was struck, I was so shocked to have known that the Palestinians in Jerusalem pay the same taxes that the Israelis pay, but get 25% of services that the Jews receive. And moreover, they're paying a long list of taxes, maybe more than 22 items list. One of the items is called the television tax, where we Palestinians pay for the Israeli television that spreads incitement and hate against us.
Yeah. Wow.
So,
look, the list goes on, and you only have to, walk the streets of, Jerusalem, but in fact, the what is now East Jerusalem, to see the lack of municipal services, the rubbish collection, the schools. And
they pay
they pay equal, the same land taxes, the same state duties, etc.
But they get
marginal services. And often far less than 25%.
Maybe break-even level of service.
Absolutely. The barest minimum, because the reality of Zionism, as we know, doesn't want the indigenous Palestinians in there. So we need to make it as inhospitable as possible and encourage people to leave.
Very difficult to continue to stay and to keep the doors open for them to leave. But it's not happening.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll move on to the myth that Israel is a democracy. And, it's one of the favourite things of soft Zionists and, Christian Zionists, as well as Zionists, to say, it's the only democracy in the Middle East. It's not a democracy. It's far from a democracy. And this myth...
And by the way, before that, this is in dismissal of, let's say, the Turkish democracy, which could be viewed as, not fantastic model, but it's, even to start with, we can't just say that it's the only democracy of the Middle East. We have also other, Middle East is not known of its democracies, but, that to start with, even before we investigate the authenticity of that statement, they dismiss any other country.
Of course. And their supporters worldwide, espouse this. Keep saying it out there.
Regurgitating that
It's a democratic state, they're just seeking peace with their neighbours. It's a tough neighbourhood. And, we guarantee equality to all of our citizens. And we know this is, just a flagrant lie. Until 1967, as we know, Yusuf, the Palestinians that were left post-Nakba were treated under military law. They had curfews. The concept of coming late from work, the chances of getting shot were very real because you were outside your home after curfew.
And the Palestinian poet Mahmoud Darwish wrote one of his most powerful pieces called Sajjil Ana Arabi, write down I am an Arab, which is a dialogue between himself and the military officer or the occupier. And that's back in the 60s.
Yeah. Well, there isn't a Palestinian, be he, she in Gaza, the West Bank,
Jerusalem,
Jerusalem, within Israel, wherever you want to call that, anywhere in historic Palestine, there isn't a Palestinian, regardless of her age and education, etc., that can't have their day ruined by an 18-year-old military officer, just because she chose to. And these are conscripts, just because they said,
can.
I'm going to pull this car over and search it. You're going to have to sit there until I decide to move on, because we'll just throw out the word security. The reality of any democracy, and you want to say, what is the litmus test? The litmus test of a democracy is its ability to tolerate and what it will do for its minorities. Yeah, because if it's voiceless and it's marginalized and it's weakest, have a voice, and that voice is honored, respected, heard in the same space as the most powerful and the strongest and the dominant, then that's a democracy. Now, in any measure, if you are bad luck to you if you're a Palestinian, yeah? But if you're a Jew that has come from Africa, at least you're not an Arab.
Yeah.
And if you're an Arab Jew, somebody who's come from Iran or Morocco, well, at least you're not an African Jew, and thank God you're not an Arab.
Yeah.
And unless you're an Ashkenazi and part of the ruling elite, there's layers of racism that extend within that society, beyond the concept that once every 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years we get to vote.
And that's why I totally agree with you, Nasser. This is why some of the commentators view the Arab or the Palestinians of Israel as fifth-class citizens after the European Jews, the Ashkenazi Jews, and then the Russian Jews, and then the Falasha Jews, and then, if you're lucky enough, you are number 5.
Yeah.
And we're talking about citizens, we're talking about holders of Israeli passports, and next week, hopefully, we will be talking to one of them
in the studio. Yeah. So, and then you get to the laws of this democracy that create situations that institutionalize the separation between the class of citizen and those 5 different ones. And the most clear one is the law of return. So you can be a Jew anywhere in the world, male, female, never have set foot in Israel, never been there. Your father, mother might never have been there, but you are fortuitous enough to have been born of a Jewish womb, so you can claim at any time aliyah and return and be given full citizenship. As well as generous incentives. Yeah, as well as generous incentives to settle into, what should be the Palestinian state or anywhere in historic Palestine.
I don't think you don't even have to pay for your first trip to Palestine.
Well, there's many tours that
in the Aliyah program. It's worth investigating what kind of benefits that members of the Jewish community in Melbourne, for example, receive if they choose to have Aliyah.
Yeah. So those laws, govern citizenship. They govern who can own land, what land, where you can live, and obviously the most important one is the law of return, which denies Indigenous people and their relatives the opportunity to return to their ancestral homes just because they celebrate God on a different day. And when you talk about that, and we spoke about it recently about UN Resolution 194. Now, part of the admission of Israel into the United Nations was predicated on the fact that Israel would comply fully with 194, which was the return of Palestinians to their homes or receive just compensation.
Yeah.
And to this day, it's still nothing.
194 is, like you said, Nasser, a UN resolution that was passed, I think, in 1949 within the year of Nakba, and calling for Israel to accept the right of the Palestinians who were forced to leave, and compensation. But till today, we know what.
Still nothing.
Still nothing.
We spoke about that last week. And we move on to there, and so much of the opportunities within Israel from the point of view education, jobs, etc., are predicated on military service. Yeah. So something of the order of 70% of Israel's industry is deemed security sensitive. And so without having done your conscription or your military service for an Israeli, you're not able to join those jobs. Now, way back when, post-48, the Israelis wanted to create the divide between the Palestinians that were left post-Nakba. And so they made, conscription mandatory. Everybody had to join the army. And they didn't think that the Palestinians would join the Israeli army. And in fact, if you go through all of the wars, whether it be 56 or 67, 73, 82, and so on and so on. The concept of a fifth column, the Palestinians have never risen up against the State of Israel. When they talk about this concept of a fifth column, the expectation is, perhaps in 63 or 67 or 73, that in fact, 1/5 of the population would have quickly taken to arms and, stormed the banks and, looted and rioted and, endeavoured to, win a war.
Disturb the order.
Never happened. And in the late 40s, early 50s, Palestinians actually did go and try and join the Israeli army. Yeah, and it wasn't just the Druze and the Christians. There were other Palestinians. You just wanted a semblance of normalcy.
Bedouins.
Yeah, and Bedouins. Yeah, and when that happened, they went, we need to work something out here. So they, created the military became very oppressive on the indigenous Palestinians to create a divide, so that the military was seen as an oppressor, and that any connivance with them, was seen very harshly. So that moved it apart. So now we've got a situation where, as a Palestinian, inside Israel, you can't get to 70% of the jobs. 90% of the land, as we know, is owned by the Jewish National Fund, owned in perpetuity for the Jewish people forever. So we can't even move into that land. Yeah, it might have been your ancestral homeland, but you can't get there at all. And you get to, in the north, Nazareth, which is the biggest Palestinian city inside the state of Israel, which since 1948 has almost quadrupled in size of humans, business activity, etc. Not 1 square kilometre of land growth.
No.
Not 1 square kilometre of land growth. Yet, in the Jewish-only Upper Nazareth, which is a village because the Knesset at a point worked out that, in fact, the whole Galilee region was so Palestinian, there wasn't any Jews. So there is, in fact, a program to resettle Jewish people into the north of Israel, to claim it back. The Upper Nazareth, which is a suburb, has tripled in size since 1948, all on land stolen from Nazareth itself and the Palestinian indigenous landowners. So this is another example. And, the worst examples of the democracy that is Israel is its 50-year occupation of East Jerusalem, Gaza and the West Bank. And when Israeli supporters talk about the occupation, they brush it off, with the suggestion, but it's only temporary.
It's for security.
Well, it's security, but it's temporary.
And once we address the security
issues, talk about this stuff,
we're happy to...
So temporarily, we're going to spend billions of dollars moving 600, 700,000 people here, build roads for them, houses, hospitals, schools, parks, etc. Because it's all temporary. We're going to connect them with to the 4G network, cable, internet, etc.
And they're going to build a wall.
All temporary.
Yeah.
And the non-democratic features of the occupation include imprisonment without trial. It includes the refusal of building permits. As you know, Yusuf, how hard it is for a Palestinian to get a building permit in A, B or C in
or
the West
to
Bank.
do renovation.
Renovations, to add a story or something. The separate roads are undemocratic. The separate utility systems are undemocratic. The separate mobile telephony spectrum is undemocratic. But mostly, no vote and no representation on who governs your daily life. Everything from birth to death, the taxes, the roads, the money, the stamps, no vote as to who controls us. And this is the concept that makes Zionism incompatible with democracy, and in fact what it actually is apartheid.
Indeed. I just want to, before we close and move on this topic, I want to mention a few points. First, that Israel has made a legal definition or distinction between citizenship and nationality. Mm-hmm. While it might be too difficult to dig deep into the difference between the two, but the Palestinian citizens of Israel, or the passport holders of Israeli passports, are citizens, but only Jews can be nationals of the State of Israel. The second point I want to make is today the situation is that the Druze Palestinians and the Bedouin Palestinians do serve in the military, in the army. Nevertheless, if you look at their neighborhood, if you look at the Druze neighborhood in 48, you will see that they are as marginalized as the other Arab societies. And moreover, the Bedouin society, we're talking about the Negev area, and look what happened with, let's say, if we just take one village of Arqub, Arqub in 1 year was demolished more than 40 times, and the people would rebuild it again.
Yep.
And we know, if you remember, in 2012, the Pravar plan to basically consider all the Arab territories in the Negev area as unrecognized. Unrecognized means that they don't get services, they don't have any utilities, they don't even make it to Google Map or to Israeli Map, as if they don't exist. And that's what they deal the communities that do serve in the army. Wow. That's the Bedouin. So I guess we can say more and more about that.
Well, I think, let's finish with
But I will just finish it with one real story. My brother is married to an Israeli, and he's been waiting for more than 3 years for his papers to be processed with no any form of feedback. He is separated from his wife and 2 kids. They only meet in a third country, which is currently Jordan. But she lives in Akka, he lives in Jordan. They can't be together simply because he's a Palestinian, she's a Palestinian. She holds Israeli passport, but their application will never be processed. I mean, they make it difficult for even their citizens to be reunited with their spouses, their children.
There, Yusuf. Your sister-in-law is a citizen, but she's not a national.
You're listening to Palestine Remembered on 855 AM, and we will be back after this song.
Hi Tata, we're going to listen to Ecuador by Sash. This is our holiday song.
You're listening to Palestine Remembered on 855 AM. Nasser, next topic is...
Well, next time we want to keep talking about, in our theme about Israel being a democracy, but want to introduce our listeners to Mr. Amy Popper. And because one of the things that, in fact, Trump just most recently said is we've got to stop the Palestinians from inciting hatred. And one of the things that Palestinians do is, venerate their martyrs. And, aside from the fact that how many streets are named after Jewish terrorists, etc., the Hasbara specialists, they take a lot of capital from the Palestinian people's support for their prisoners. And I want to talk about Amy Popper, who was born in 1969. And this Israeli, he was convicted of murdering 7 people in Rishon LeZion in May of 1990. And it's known as the Ayun Kara massacre. And for unknown reasons, this Popper went and got an automatic machine gun and killed and wounded Palestinian men at a bus stop for no reason. And he was sentenced to life, 300 odd years as well.
Pure terrorism.
Just pure terrorism, absolutely. Now, only in a Jewish and democratic state could a Jew steal a gun, hunt for Arab workers. I mean, he hunted these people down, shoot them, sprayed the entire bus terminal. These are workers, Palestinian workers trying to get to jobs, getting paid low incomes without, work cover, without superannuation, without medical benefits, etc. Kill some of them, injure many others, steal one of their cars and flee the scene. This guy did this. Only in a Jewish democratic state could he be permitted, after being sentenced to 7 life sentences, to marry a Kach terrorist member. Now, we know about the Kach party, which is, even the Americans deemed them to be terrorists. Only, and start a family. This guy had 7 life sentences.
While he was serving his term.
Got married, he was allowed to get married,
to start a family.
Have a family. And only in this Jewish and democratic state could he, a short while later, go out on leave. They gave him a day pass. Go out, with your wife and family. That's what you should do. And he stayed in hotels throughout Israel. Often a couple of days at a time he was given off. And only in this Jewish and democratic state could he drive without a driver's license, crash his car, run a red light, cause a fatal accident, killed his wife, and then, got put back into to jail. Again, only in this Jewish and democratic state could he get married for a second time.
Wow.
Yeah. Now,
how is this jail?
Unbelievable. Then apparently she was even crazier than him, so he divorced her. But that's okay, because, in this Jewish and democratic state, a murderer, he had 7 life sentences. This guy was allowed to receive visitors as well. And one of his visitors, and a cell friend of his, was Mr. Baruch Goldstein. As we know.
And Baruch Goldstein is the perpetuator of the Hebron massacre of 1994.
Yep.
A person who just decided to walk into a mosque and open fire and kill worshippers. And this terrorist is viewed by, I would say, I don't want to say all Israelis, but substantial, I would say.
There is a monument for Baruch Goldstein.
In his own settlement. On Palestinian stolen land.
Yeah, saying, what a wonderful guy he was, a liberationist and a real Jewish nationalist. So
he got to know him.
This is where Baruch Goldstein got his ideas from this guy. And then only in this wonderful...
Talking about how you get radicalized.
Yeah. Jewish and democratic state. Could this guy with such flawless behavior, killed his first wife, holidays, etc.,
good behavior,
everything, he's due for parole in 2023. 2023, after initially receiving 300-something years, 7 life sentences, and there's been massive a groundswell of activism saying that, whenever you do a prisoner swap with the Palestinians, this guy should be one of our prisoner swaps as well. We should be allowed to let him out.
During the same time, this Amy Popper served in Israeli prisons, tens of thousands of Palestinian prisoners had to deal with inhumane treatment, and we've spoken about the demands of the Palestinian prisoners for their mass hunger strike, denial of meeting their lawyers. They're denied the right to see their families for months and years. They're denied medical negligence and solitary confinement and torture and all inhumane treatment of prisoners. Well, I think, Nasser, this is a powerful reminder to our listeners who still think that democracy and Israel are not oxymorons. I think we have given just indications. That's not everything. This is not an extensive coverage of what we think why Israel is not democratic.
You only have to ask that question about Amy Popper. If he'd been a Palestinian and killed 7 people at a bus stop, they'd demolished his house. He would have been, of course, executed on the site. They'd demolished his home, thrown his parents out into the street. His village would have been in a curfew. I mean, the parallels are just so wildly insignificant. Significant, excuse me. So perhaps as we're wrapping up the show today, if we can get our visitors to visit apan.org.au, we're running a campaign now against PayPal. PayPal, as you know, the world's biggest carrier of money transactions, online payment transactions, allows Israel you can transact within Israel, you can transact in Jerusalem, and Israeli settlements within the West Bank. But if you're a neighbouring Palestinian suburb, you can't get access to PayPal. So if you go to apan.org.au and follow the details of that campaign, register your name and sign the online petition so that we can ask PayPal or demand of PayPal that they comply with a just situation and boycott, divestment and sanctions.
With this, we've come to the end of this week's episode of Palestine Remembered. Thanks for listening, and I would like to again say thank you to our lovely visitor, Janine.
It's okay.
Is it okay? Thanks for coming.
It's an open invitation for you to join us anytime. And until we meet next Saturday, have a great time and salam.